Thank you again to Telefilm Canada for presenting this session and the close-up series, and for being a valued partner of both the Prism Prize and the Academy. We wanted to gather today to talk about music video creation in Canada, which is basically all we talk about at Prism Prize and MVP Project. Prism will celebrate its 10th year in 2022, and over that decade, we've seen the music video community flourish in ways we never could have predicted. Even in the last couple of years, in spite of huge production challenges due to the pandemic, the work that has come out of the music video space has been incredible. Canadian creators are making music videos at a world-class level, and we feel strongly that this is a vital element of the Canadian filmmaking community at large. A reminder that we are open now for MVP music video production grant applications until November 1st at mvpproject.ca, and we hope today's talk inspires you to pursue your own music video ideas. Before passing things off to our moderator, I'd like to briefly introduce today's speakers. If you'd like to learn more about any of them, we've included a link in the chat with their full bios. First up, we have Alexander Farah. Alex is an Afghan-Canadian director and editor who works in Vancouver and Toronto. His short film directorial debut, Sahar, premiered at TIFF before screening internationally and landing a Vimeo staff pick. His beautiful MVP-funded music video for Meet You at the Light by Desiree Dawson came out earlier this fall, attracting high praise from Boom, Director's Notes, and many others. Chandler Levack is an award-winning filmmaker and writer from Toronto. Her short films have screened at festivals like TIFF and South by Southwest, and her music videos have garnered multiple Juno and Prism Prize nominations. She works as a film critic for the Globe and Mail and has just finished production on her feature film, I Like Movies, with support from Telefilm's Talent to Watch program. Imad Elsheikh is an executive producer and creative consultant based out of Toronto. He founded PIQUE, a Toronto-based production studio and creative space that produces branded content, films, and special events. PIQUE works to develop and collaborate with emerging creators and is the company behind great music videos by Cadence Weapon, Mustafa, and many more. Chelan Ryu is a Toronto-based director and editor. His music videos, made with friends like Pup and Madrock, have garnered multiple MMVAs, UKMVA, and Prism Prize nominations, as well as spots on Rolling Stone's top 5 videos of the year and Billboard and Pitchfork's top videos of the decade. His short film, Rules for Werewolves, was an official selection at South by Southwest and TIFF. His first documentary feature, Handle with Care, recently premiered at the Vancouver International Film Festival. And now I will pass it off to our moderator for this session, Amani Binchikon, who is a talented writer and producer, as well as a trusted Prism Prize juror. Thank you and welcome. Take it away, Amani.
Hi, thank you so much, Neil. Thanks everyone for joining me. I'm super excited to talk to you all today. Very incredible people, really cool work, and yeah, let's get into it. So my first question is a very broad one, a general one, but it's always good for the creative folks. So my first question is, when did you realize that you loved storytelling, and when did you realize that you wanted to do it for a living?
I think we're all intimidated because it's such a good question that takes I mean, I think from an early age as a kid, I'm addicted to reading and theater and plays, and was constantly recruiting kids in my neighborhood to put on like elaborate My Little Pony theatrical shows in front of my poor parents. And I guess as I got older in high school, you start getting exposed to more and more things that feel like they really resound with you, and they sort of form your identity and like a big part of who you are. And definitely watching hours and hours of Much Music as a teenager and a preteen, and getting exposed to all kinds of different, it felt like every music video that I watched was like a portal to a little world or a sort of place of becoming. So yeah, I think that was like pivotal for me.
Yeah, I agree with Chandler. Like mainly like just watching stuff growing up, like music videos or movies, and I still do it like till today, like just the same amount. And like it just, yeah, it inspires me. And also just like a passion project, I think is kind of like what kind of got me into what I do now. And with that, I was like, I kind of just like said, okay, I kind of do this for my career and kind of use that as a stepping stone.
Yeah, for me, actually, I didn't grow up watching anything. So it was like filmmaking was never really on my radar, but I had a very visceral reaction to it's strange to even mention it, but Pan's Labyrinth. I remember watching that in theaters and having like a very like visceral reaction to it. And it's nowhere near the sort of like genre or anything that I like would write in or sort of feel inspired to explore, but just like I think I just like saw storytelling on a different lens at that point. And I think that that's when I had discovered editing in film school, and then saw that there was so much agency and power in what an editor does. And then that sort of led me to then want to like write and direct and sort of like hone stories that I didn't feel like I was seeing necessarily explored. Yeah.
I'll answer as well then. That when I was really little, I was really obsessed with Peter Pan, and I was just really into reading books and watching movies, and I used to cry when it was over because I wanted to have those kind of adventures. And as you get older, you find out like that stuff's not real. You can't, those are books and characters. And somehow I got the idea that like making movies and stuff was as close as I could get to those kind of adventures. Which turned out to be kind of true.
I think that's so interesting because even in my own work, I often think of this idea of like being a creative person is making a world, right? And that world is like the place that it's made of all the things you love, all the things that interest you, and all the things that make you, right? So I think it's so great that all of you have very different worlds, but like they come together, So this is actually the perfect segue. My next question is about process. So this one again is a two-parter. The first part is, tell me about your favorite part of the process when you're from like inception to execution. What's your favorite part? And what is the part that you've learned through your experiences as a storyteller, filmmaker, editor, etc.? What's the most integral part that you've learned to be like, can't miss this anymore, or like, this is important for me? So sentimental and then professional, two worlds. Maybe Alex, there was a nice comment, actually, I don't know if you caught it, but someone said that you edited their favorite short film in the chat already. So maybe you could chat a little bit about that. I don't know if you saw it, but.
Right, I think I love pre-production and I love post-production, but production is always like, I just feel like there's so much that could go wrong. And there's like, being able to execute something in that phase rests on so many factors, so many variables, and it sometimes becomes a little daunting or intimidating. And I think with each project, you kind of hopefully want to do more and more and take on something that maybe is a bit more challenging or sort of prompts you to grow as a filmmaker. And that's when I think like you kind of, in some ways, have the least control or really have to exercise adaptability. So production is like definitely the most rewarding, but the most stressful. And I've always loved post-production the most, just to see like crafting it all come together, and then to see it go through iterations of sound and color is like, that's when I think the project starts to sing. And that's when you start thinking more about like who the potential audience, who's going to connect with this, where do I, like what other avenues of viewership do I want to explore? Those things become like exciting to me because you're so much closer than you are just in front of a blank final draft document or something.
I was gonna say for me, as a producer, I guess, it's my favorite part. I mean, I love every part of it, obviously, I'm sure we all do. But I guess as a producer, I tend to love the post-production because I'm kind of like, whew, like it worked. Like, and like you kind of just want to make sure everything fell into place correctly. Like when I mean like everything, I mean like the quality and like the budget and everything. So but obviously like it's production is like, I mean, Alex said it's like it can be chaos, but there's also a lot of fun in it because kind of seeing everything come together. But for me personally, yeah, post-production is great because you see the edit, you see the color grade, and you're like, wow, like it all came together. And like you, as a producer, you kind of see like everything start to finish and like so many pieces kind of come together. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me, what I love about filmmaking is that I'm interested in so many different disciplines. And with filmmaking, you get to actually, it touches on like every single form of art. So like, whether it's like for the Jeremy Dutcher music video that I did, we got an MVP grant for that project. We had to design like a custom cape made out of like organza, and I went to like 5 different museums across Canada and Quebec to kind of research Indigenous art. And we worked on like choreographing an original dance, and we shot it at the Aga Khan Museum. And it was just like, and Tantu Cardinal was the star of the video, and Alanis Obama Stalwin was in the video as well. And so just the idea of like the collaboration with so many different artists across so many different disciplines, it was like absolutely life-changing. And I always feel like when I go in to direct something, it always like reveals something really fascinating to me that really fundamentally like shifts my sort of understanding of art making. And I just love the collaboration with so many different people that like allow me to see like the discipline of filmmaking and my craft in like different ways.
Are we all going to answer every question? I keep feeling like after everybody else does, I'm like, well, I should. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we're warming up right now. And so everyone can take a stab at it, and then we'll start to get a little more conversational. So if you hear something you like that maybe Chandler or Imad or Alex has said, then feel free to jump in as well. But, we're on Zoom, we're warming up. So I think it's good to do the little, everyone has a
keep it organized. I think obviously post is my favorite part. It's the funnest part for me, but I think speaking specifically with music videos, it's when I have the most mood swings. Like I'm so mad at myself for screwing this up. And then I think it's a masterpiece. And then I get some notes and I'm ready to, I love notes. Notes are awesome. Keep them coming. And, but so I think when it comes specifically to music videos, prep is my favorite part. And specifically, I think kind of shot listing or boarding, or I like to lay things out on a timeline and work with text, because I think music videos are really timing based. So, and with a music video compared to other disciplines or other mediums, you have this song that you love. And so you're like going like, and then this could happen at this part of the song, and you can like turn the music up, and then, like there's something that it's not just a blank final draft page. So I think that part's really, really fun, and getting to imagine how it'll all come together. And you have this like, click track of timing that you are pretty married to. So that makes it really fun.
Yeah, for real. I think it's so interesting to me that you all work in different, like, I think we're getting into the meat of it, which is exciting for me. I love that we're all talking about different forms and different stages, and just all the different sort of birthing processes that make something, right? Which I think is what all of you do really beautifully. And so I think where I want to go next is the difference between script and narrative-based works and music videos, right? Obviously, they're very different in terms of what Jeremy was just talking about, in terms of like even just the collaborative work is different. You're creating a vision with somebody else in a very intimate way. There's time constraints, is very different, right? So I guess I want to get a bit of perspective on what those two worlds feel like for you, and how you would describe them to someone who maybe belongs to one and is trying to get into the other, or is, you know what I mean? Like, what are the tracks of both of those worlds like for you in your mind?
Maybe Chandler, because you're in post on your feature right now, it's like very fresh for you, and you can kind of...
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just shot my first feature in the middle of the pandemic in March, which was quite intense. But yeah, I mean, I'm also a screenwriter. So for me, like I'd been writing that script for 3 years, and then shooting it, in 19 days during the third wave, where like we couldn't, buy things in a Dollarama anymore. And like Doug Ford was like threatening to take people's, you needed a reason to be outside after 8 p.m. Like it was a really high stress environment to shoot a micro budget first feature in. But I guess for me, like, I think with music videos, it's all about kind of like creating like iconic images almost, and sort of your song is your narrative. And that's a really beautiful relationship that I think is really informative, because people are always going to associate those images with that song forever. So I feel like it's a really great responsibility. When it's my own writing, I think the big nuance is just working with actors and learning how to have them sort of interpret your script, and because the actors are the ones who are going to bring it to life. And before I started, directing my own writing, which was like a huge dream of mine, but I was always so intimidated. You know, with music videos, the actors were kind of like these aesthetic objects. And I didn't like know how to like, you know, you're like, okay, you're really intense and you're going to open up this package or something or run away from this person, but you're not like talking about where they were earlier that day or what. It's not really informing the scene. It's kind of more of like a visual moment or like the crest of the narrative. But with a scene, as soon as I figured out that directing was actually just talking about people, fake people, like they were real, and sort of analyzing a character the same way that you would like analyze your friend's shitty roommate, or, you know, the person that your best friend is dating, and that you could like take the kind of same kinds of ways that you analyze human behavior, but apply them to people that you wrote, and actually work with really smart, intuitive people that want to invest the same way in you. Like, then I was like, oh, this is my dream job. Like I could do this forever. And so just in terms of that process, I mean, it's like really challenging for me because the writing of my script, you know, I'd have like a 7-page scene that I wrote, and then I'd be like, oh, none of this is like actually cinematic. So how do you like take something that's so text-based and then use the sort of music video backbone of that education there to actually make something that you wrote feel like lived in as an actual scene? And what are you cutting to visually? Like that was the big sort of challenge for me. It was like kind of putting both sides on the equation to make something that's narrative based feel as cinematic as a music video, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I also have a follow-up, if you don't mind.
Sure.
How do you not become, as so someone who's a writer who, like you just said, you know, you're a screenwriter and this is your dream, right? So it's something, I find it really interesting speaking to writers because I find that we often get very precious about the writing. And so I wonder, like, how do you take that out of, is that something that you find, like, is that relationship tense for you in a way, or do you find that you're very, if it doesn't work, cut it, and I'm okay with that? Like, how do you navigate those worlds? That was very convoluted, but really, are you not precious about your writing is the question.
I mean, that's, I don't know, actually. I think I'm still figuring that out. I mean, I think it really helps to have a really great editor. So Simone Smith, who I'm working with on my feature, you know, the original cut of the assembly was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and now our movie is 94 minutes long. So we cut 45 minutes out of the film, but it, you know, it still resembles the same movie. And watching the assembly, like, it was so humanizing because, you know, I was really intimidated to watch like the first cut of my film, and immediately, like, we cut like 4 scenes on the first week. I was just like, this 7-minute scene is, I can't watch it without cringing, so it's got to go, you know. And you end up kind of realizing like what moments are overwritten and how actually it's like way more powerful to end it, you know, 3 minutes earlier, and you don't need that like 4-page monologue. But then there is a scene that literally is a 4-page monologue. So I don't know, it's kind of like, I think the duration of a feature has all these like ebbs and flows, and it's more about the like lived in experience of the whole thing, and how are you going to make this like an enjoyable experience for the audience with like variation and sort of the pacing of the whole thing. Whereas a music video, I mean, even though it's 3 minutes, I think every video I've tried to do, I've tried to create the same experience. Like, this is like a feature in 3 minutes or something that has transitions and sort of an emotional arc.
Sorry, I keep muting myself, so I'm like talking, I'm like, yeah, excellent, but all you see is me mouthing. Does anybody else, I'll rephrase the question just because I think we went a lot. Thanks so much for that, Chandler. But the original question was storytelling. How does it change for you in the world of filmmaking in like a traditional sort of like longer form sense, and then in music video production? So anyone have anything you'd like to add? Alex, you're looking at me like your mind is, the gears are turning.
I was going to say, I think for me, what's exciting is like blurring those boundaries. And when I think of like storytelling, especially in the last few years, I've gravitated more towards directing and editing music videos that are more narrative based rather than performance based. And I edited a few music videos for Farah, Virtuous Circle, and Golden Ladder that allowed me to sort of like get really excited about injecting like strictly like narrative into like a music video. And I wanted to, for this last film that I did for Desiree Dawson, like I wrote it like a short film, and even wrote out like, maybe I would write like the two people are fighting throughout a scene. But as we would get closer and closer to shooting, I wanted to write out that dialogue, and maybe just be a little less precious than maybe how Chandler was mentioning with the words, but knowing that they weren't actually going to be recorded, but that there was enough of an impetus and sort of a back and forth that made sense to me and that would drive the scene and feel lived in. Like that was really important to me, is like in making narrative work that feels lived in rather than just sort of maybe surfacey or more performative.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Jeremy and Imad, what are the things, what's your impetus?
I could kind of echo what I guess Alex was just saying, in that I think my favorite kind of music videos are pretty narrative based, and so the stuff that you're trying to do to make something scripted or something with actors work is sort of the same things you're trying to do to make a music video of that kind work. I find there's like a type of music video that's like, we're gonna have this really cool looking place and people are gonna hang out and it's gonna be cool as shit. And like, there's some really, really amazing music videos like that. I think I'm quite bad at that. You know, I kind of want to see a story get from A to B. So I agree. That's how I feel.
Yeah, my own comments pretty light, but it's mainly just about like a lot of the work that I've been starting to do is whether it's like branded commercials or music videos, is like just trying to do add some like symbolism. I'd say even more in the branded spots, like saying a little bit less and just trying to show a lot without saying too much. There's even times when I've done spots and we might even have a script for it. Actually, it's a good segue into a spot that we did recently. It was a Nobis Simu spot that we just dropped not too long ago. And we did have a script for it, but after we created the video, we just thought the visuals were really strong. And it wasn't just like a bunch of like cool visuals. It did look great, but there was like a meaning behind a lot of the shots that we took. And it was sort of like about like being boxed in. And we showed Simu doing like so many different things, like playing basketball or like singing or dancing. And then there was even shots where we'd have like a box or a square that was like either projected or something, and that would kind of represent like being boxed in. So then we got to the point where we're like, okay, the video is great, but like we didn't even need the script, and there wasn't even a lot of that needed to be said because we thought the visuals did enough. So yeah, a little bit different, but yeah.
I also think there's so many like performance music videos that like really work, and like they're very like heavy on the vibe, or maybe there's a lot of innovative things happening with camera, or it's, you know, it's showcasing a lot more styling and makeup and wardrobe, and those like we consume the shit out of those as well. And I think that those sorts of there's also maybe like the more quiet, for lack of a better word, like artistic versions of what those look like. And I think of like Chandler's video with Jeremy Dutcher, or Imad's video with Mustafa, like as packaging a person via like their background or sort of like the things, their experiences. Like I think that you watch those music videos and you get a good sense of who that artist is and where they're coming from, sort of their perspective and voice that they have in the Canadian industry.
Yeah, just jumping on that, like I know that for me, it's just about the authenticity of the artist and really like creating something that shows who that person is. And you're right that can really run the gamut between, you know, one of my favorite videos is the Nabil video for FKA Twigs. And I think it's for 1 week or 2 weeks. And it's just like a slowly zooming out shot of her. And it's sort of like this golden like palace that she's in, and she's playing all these different like parts of like a court. And it's one single sustained shot, but it's just like so unbelievably amazing. And it really introduces that artist so powerfully. Or like, but I also love like, What's Up, Fat Lip, the Spike Jonze, you know, video that he did on like a handy cam. And it's just like, I think there's like within all of that, there's so many interpretations, but it really comes down to like, when you really see like a truly authentic introduction of the person that feels like it's really in that person's voice, and the collaboration between the artist and the filmmaker is so strong. It's so much better than exactly the videos that Jeremy's talking about, where it's like, these are cool people hanging out in like a loft, and here's a shot of like an Absolute vodka and like the weird, Beats by Dre headphones that we had to inject into the sponsorship of this video, and it feels really manufactured.
I want to say that I'm not trying to knock like a sweet hangout video, and I just think it's not like something I'm awesome at. And even a performance video. Like, I think the thing that I find exciting about a music video, and this is something I think Chandler sort of already said, so why am I saying it again? It's just that you want it to feel like it arcs, and you want it to feel like it goes somewhere, and or in a branded piece, anything, you just want to feel like it goes somewhere. And I feel like a lot of really awesome music video ideas that I've seen, or pitches that I've seen, I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And then the rest of the treatment, or the rest, or even the rest of the video is kind of like, and then we keep seeing this cool thing. And it's like pretty rare that is really awesome. I think occasionally you're just like, oh wow, this artist is a force of nature. This performance is a force of nature. This staging is a force of nature, like this FK Twigs video. Like, so you just want to get out of the way, but that's hard to pitch, I would say. You might want to have like a game plan. And then if you're like, wow, you know what, we're not going to cut. Wow, we're not going to keep adding things because this piece is just going to sing by itself. You could do that. I kind of jumped on to pitching, but cool.
We'll get there, don't you worry. I also wanted to add, just for all our attendees, Neil is doing a great job of adding links to all the videos we're mentioning, all the ones that are being referenced. So if you want to take a gander, they're all there. So actually, I think you all are doing a great job of doing the segues for me. So clap for yourselves. My next question is actually about collaboration. So I'm interested in hearing one about the collaborations that you've done so far, but then also two, the type of collaborations that you do want to do, and like your general sort of take on collaboration within the worlds of storytelling, right? Just because I think that you all have very interesting, there have been questions about different things that you all have done. Alex, there was a question about, like I said, one of the short films you edited. Imad, there's some questions about the Mustafa video in here as well. And I'm sure more will roll in. So yeah, just collaborative, the spirit of collaboration. How do you approach it? What do you hope to achieve through it? And take it from there. So maybe we can actually start with the Mustafa video. I like what everybody was chatting about in terms of introducing an artist really strongly. And I think that that's such a good example of that, right? An artist being introduced on their own terms, in their own sort of environment, and in a very specific lens. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about how you guys made that.
Yeah, so that was a really interesting video. I was really happy to be a part of that. And it was also a very, very personal video to Mustafa. So had to be very patient, agile, and like just sort of be like a fly on the wall for that, rather than be too picky about like kind of like what it'll look like or so on. Like, we had an idea, we had a plan, but I think we were just kind of like going through every day, every minute was just like kind of like seeing what would happen. Key was to just be ready, because sometimes like certain people in the community would be available at certain times. We had to be like really respectful of people's places, obviously, and like even during like COVID, you had to be extra careful. So yeah, and it was also cold, obviously, in the middle of like February. So yeah, so I mean, before we even started the video, we had a lot of conversations about like what were the things that we wanted to do. Things would obviously change like before we even got to like filming. But luckily we had like an amazing DP, Farhad, and he like absolutely slayed it. Like he was also just ready. And that was one thing that you need for a DP, is like someone who's just can make the most out of like basically anything. And he was able to pull that off. And like time was like obviously like it's always a factor, especially on shorter days, like in the winter. and you're like shooting a lot of natural light, so you try to take advantage of like all moments you have with the sun. And like you're also working with a lot of young people. Like Mustafa's friends will all have like different schedules. So like when I mean you have to be ready, like you have to be ready, like standing by like basically the entire day to like make sure that you get the best possible shots. We obviously had a sunset shot too, so that sunset shots are always fun because like I even as a producer, like I've learned with sunset shots, like I'm the one that'll be ready at like 2-3 hours before it even gets dark, because I'm just like, there's always one more thing that happens when you try to get a sunset shot, and like you never know, and then those things will kick in, and then that's it, and then you're like you're missing your shot. So yeah, that was like obviously super important. And then I guess feeling feeling like connected to it. Like we obviously heard the story of Ali and like what, you know, how important he was to the community and how important he was to Mustafa and his friends. So I think when you're just kind of on that same wavelength as well, it's it makes the experience more like important. It doesn't just feel like a different music video, or like it didn't even feel like a music video. It felt just more like a short film documentary, and just felt very organic. It felt and just humbling to just kind of be there. So it kind of hits all the emotions. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a whole bunch of things that came together to make that video happen.
It seems like the connection to the artist and the story are important to your process. Does that sound true?
100%. So like every time we work on a project, obviously, like, I mean, Mustafa in that case, like directed it, and we had to have a lot of conversations before that to really get a good understanding of what we wanted to get across. And that goes with other projects. Like if it's a music video, the director and the artist work very closely, and myself, to just kind of make sure that we're getting as close as possible to what the vision is and what they want. A lot of the times artists will have, for music videos, a lot of times artists have like their like creative brief or something that they really wanted, or a concept, and then the directors just kind of come together and we just make it beautiful. And if it's something like branded content, sometimes it's that same formula, where instead of an artist, you're talking to the client or a brand, or if it's even like when we did something for Serge Ibaka or like Simu Liu or Kyle Lowry, like same thing. There's like, you kind of have to speak to them and get that like connection, and that collaboration is super key. So I feel like all those things are super important before in the pre-production, to kind of make sure it's smooth and organic throughout the whole process.
Does that feel true for all of you, or do you have different approaches to collaboration and working with artists in different capacities? Maybe Jeremy, you can let us know what your process is like, or how you approach collaboration.
Sure. I've been lucky enough, I think, that most of my music video work, most of my career in all filmmaking, I kind of work with the same people over and over again. And so you get to build that kind of trust. I did a bunch of music videos for the punk band Pup, a bunch of them with Chandler. And so I remember the very first video we pitched them, they told us, like, it turned out well. It was this song Reservoir, where we had them doing all these crazy stunts on a super small budget, and Chandler will remember all this super vividly, of this crazy sweatshop in the market.
It wasn't a sweatshop. I mean, it felt like a sweatshop because it was really hot, but we shot it at double lands.
Sorry, it was very sweaty. It was like a sweaty box. Anyways,
yeah.
Getting off topic, but they told us, like, we thought that idea was nuts and it was gonna suck, but no one pitched us any better ideas. And then we pitched them an idea of them as kids, and they were, again, like, that first video turned out good enough that we're gonna give you like another chance on, but this idea sounds nuts, it's not gonna work. And then by 4 or 5 videos later, you're like, you know, we're gonna turn you into a bunch of senior citizens, and they're like, I'm sure in the back of their mind they have that same feeling of like, this idea is crazy, but that, like, you build the trust. And then I think those guys have gotten more and more empowered to tell their own stories, and I'm trying to you know, trying to make those ideas come to life. I did a bunch of music videos for Lights that are all based off of her comic books. And I think for those, it was like, I remember at one point I was trying to change the costumes or change it to something like this. And she's like, no, here's the blueprint. It's the comic book. And so for that, it was way more about like, okay, how do we translate this story to make this song work? How do we find a way of building performance into this story? So I don't have like a great answer. I think if you didn't want to collaborate, you're probably in the wrong medium. So I love working with, I mean, like, I guess that's it. Like Alex, as an editor, you could speak to this too, of like some projects, you're given a bunch of footage and someone's like, I'll see you in a month, make it good. And then some projects you're really like, you know, you switch into, you're almost being technical because somebody has such a clear idea of they want 5 frames off this shot. Now we're going to the close, now we're going to the wide. And in that case, I'm going, how can I best tell this technically? How quickly can I do this? How creative can we make this experience? And I think with music videos, it can be sort of a similar thing where maybe you have a really detailed brief and the artist knows exactly how they want it to look, how they want it to move. And so what are you doing? What are you bringing to the table? And then in other times, it's just like a, you know, set your imagination free, Lorenzo type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say was like, I think what makes the sort of collaboration with Pup, or one thing that Jeremy's really done well is this kind of sense of a mythology of a band and like world building, and how every single video kind of builds upon a concept or a story or kind of a germinative idea from another video. So it's kind of like the whole video, it kind of creates like the universe of the band. And I think if you can have a partnership like that, I mean, I think Pup are just exceptional in that they really are collaborative and they are looking for that. Some artists, like you're saying, know who they are or sort of have a sense of how they want to be packaged. And that can be challenging sometimes because you don't really know how to like intersect yourself in there. But like the best artists like really do kind of want your input. I think with the experience that I had with Jeremy Dutcher, like he really wanted the video to celebrate like the Indigenous Renaissance and different kind of like storytellers and creators in his community that he really wanted to highlight. And it was all about celebrating Indigenous excellence. And we had a lot of discussions like with my role as like a white settler, like how I should be facilitating that vision, and like what does the crew look like, and how are we going to behave on set. And you know, we made sure to have time that the sort of Indigenous creators could communicate together. And I actually found myself like, in a weird way, like doing a lot less and listening more and kind of taking a step back. And it was actually a really interesting process for me and some of the people that I were collaborating that weren't Indigenous to kind of understand like where we should be intersecting more in our role, facilitating someone's vision. And yeah, that was excellent. It was a really important like education that sometimes your job as the director isn't to be dogmatic and say like the costumes are going to look like this and this is how the set's going to be and this is how I want to run it, but like actually to let the artists help you facilitate their vision by just listening more and not, because I think people are like, oh, a great director like knows what they want and they come in and they tell everyone what they were supposed to do. And it's like, no, sometimes your job is to like help someone understand how to tell you what they want, if that makes sense.
To help them get to where they need to be, right? Whether they have a preconceived idea of that or not, it's that process. That's interesting. Alex, did you have anything you want to add to that?
Oh, I was just going to say in reference to what Jeremy was saying, that there are definitely like music videos that performance-based music videos with the artist where obviously like you want to showcase the artist in a flattering light. You're at the mercy of the record label as well, who will have like authority on wanting them to be perceived a certain way. And so you're kind of just there to like do the edit and punctuate those moments and make it like clean and well put together, but maybe you don't have as much agency as an editor. Or maybe it's not the most like exciting or fruitful thing to sort of like creatively feel fulfilled by. Like I've for the music videos I've done with Farah, because they've been so narrative, like those stories are told in so many vignettes. So when I go to deep dive in them, like I'm excited by just kind of like switching things around and playing with the footage to sort of create moments or beats that maybe weren't necessarily listed or he wasn't thinking about, but that I could kind of then again, punctuate. Like the music is already so emotive, and if you have an artist who's just like, I trust you or your collaborators to do whatever, then you really have free reign to punctuate a lot of those beats and that already exist in the music. So that's very exciting for me.
I might add at the end of what we were saying that I think a lot of being a music video director, as opposed to maybe other kinds of filmmaking, is being a fan and being a cheerleader. And I think a lot of is just trying to bring energy and keep everybody on the same page, especially when you're working with like, I think everybody on this panel has gotten to work with some really, really amazing artists. I can speak for, like, I got to work with my very favorite bands out in the world, you know, the people I was a huge fan of and continue to be a huge fan of. And so it's a lot of being a music video director, I think, is trying to keep everybody excited to keep doing that on take, you know, 55 of a performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like actually a lot more challenging when you're just responsible for yourself and you are directing your own, you know, ideas or concepts or a project that comes from your heart in a film basis, because, you know, it's like if you're working with a band and you're making a music video, then I think it's easier to be a cheerleader for someone else's vision and kind of keep the train on track. But when it's your own project and you're sort of up against a lot of challenges, it can be hard to kind of maintain that focus and enthusiasm and lead everybody else on.
Honestly, I could talk to y'all for hours. This is such a great chat. I can't believe the time has gone so quickly. But it's time for the Q&A. We have some really good questions from some of the attendees. So I will pose a few of them. I'll pose the first one now. I think let's start with this one. The question is from someone named Andrea. Thanks, Andrea. And the question is, what has been the most challenging aspect of creating a truly great music video? So yeah, I think by aspect, it can be like part of the process. It can be anything really. What is the most challenging part for you all? Maybe it's in the production, like the actual production. I think we hinted at that earlier, but yeah, I'll let you guys think on it for a second. And just for anyone else, the Q&A tab is at the bottom. Feel free to send any questions. You can also send them in the chat, and yeah.
I mean, I think Jeremy and I have like a million stories about just times that I remember like the first music video that we did together, Reservoir for Pup, we had to collect all these instruments. And then the concept of the video was that the band was playing the instruments like so hard that they started like exploding and attacking them and causing them to like get like a bass string through the face and stuff. And I remember like we were biking around Toronto and we had all these like broken instruments like on our backs, and like it had already been a long day of like trying to figure out all these really technical things with like only $1,000 budget. And I remember being like, this is so hard. And he's like, yeah, this is what making like a film is like it's only going to get harder. And it was like kind of shocking to me, I guess, just this kind of definition of like, oh, wow, it actually is like the hardest thing that you're ever going to do. And I think that kind of work ethic really was really important to me to learn that, like, yeah, if you are working as hard as you possibly can and like covering all of your bases and thinking so critically about your own work and putting all of your heart and soul into something, then the video has to be good, because you know that you've tried as much as you can to like, if you really care about something, then of course it's going to be like a great collaboration.
I would say for me, on this last music video, at least, casting is always really hard, because I seem to always want to explore like brown families, and finding like brown parents to play those roles for me in Canada always feels, on a very slim budget, always feels like such a huge challenge. And for this last project, like I couldn't find a father for this like father-daughter dynamic, which was very important to retain in the piece. And so I basically just asked like the younger emerging actress, like if she would be open to like asking her dad to perform in the piece. And then she's like, okay, I'll mention it to him, but I'm not sure. And then there was like, that was met with some resistance. And then eventually like, he said that he would like be open to trying it, and then getting them in a room together and just kind of like workshopping their dynamic for like 6 weeks ahead of the production, which I think is such a luxury. Like I feel like I'm never gonna have that again. But just like putting that energy into performance, I think for me is very exciting, but also so nerve-wracking, especially with kind of like newer or non-actors, because once you're in a position where you have like grip and lighting and camera and all of that around, is that gonna like get someone to sort of recoil or feel a little intimidated by it who's never been around that before? So casting and performance are always really challenging.
To add on even a few like everybody's points is just being patient, because there's been times when I've literally just had to be patient to get the shot that I need, or wait another day, or like maybe even cost a little bit more. But I'm sure like myself and everyone on this panel, because everyone creates really great work here, like I'm sure all of us have been a little bit patient at some point to get like the shot, like the creative, like whatever we really wanted. Like I remember one video that we did, obviously wasn't a big budget video, but I remember having to drive a car from Brampton. It was a car we needed for a scene, and the car broke down on like right before the Spadina exit. I was like basically like right there. Like we had to get off at Spadina, and like it was like around that area, and I had to go to the washroom. Like it was just bad. So I was like waiting for a tow truck driver, but like it, like we needed that car so bad. But then like I look at like you know, the day we reshot it and the car that we got, and like we ended up reshooting it on a day that it was like a crazy windstorm, and like the weather was like horrible, but it did make it a little bit more chaotic, but like the visuals were amazing. And like I remember this one shot where we got where like the power went out, and like we didn't obviously plan that, like the power just went out, and it looked like amazing on camera. So like sometimes just things happen, and like you got to be patient. And like we could have just been like, all right, screw it, like we're not gonna get a car for this video, but we really wanted to get it. I don't even know if I'm answering the question anymore, but yeah, like I think what I just wanted to say was like just being patient, because it just kind of related to what the others were saying on in their responses as well.
No, I think the answers are really like you're pulling from real life experiences that people are going to inevitably come across. Like they won't have someone that they want to cast for, or, you know, car troubles, or, you know, I think these are very real. So they're good points that you're all sharing. I'll add another question from Andrew, and the question is a little long, but I'll just paraphrase it. When you approach a music video treatment, do you come with a preconceived idea or notion in your head, or do you start fresh and build off the song that you're pitching for? So this is in terms of applying for a grant or applying from some sort of funding.
I'd be interested to hear from Jeremy on those kind of like text-based music videos that you did in the video game land. Like those are so fun to watch. And I wondered if that was like an inkling or a seed of an idea that you had that you kind of wanted to find the right project fit for, or if that was like something that came from the song, the ones you did for Pop.
Yeah, the DVP video, I think the like really video game text-based one, came as an idea of listening to the song. I think for the most part, I get the song, I take the song for a long walk, usually at night. You know, if you can take an animal for a walk, if you can do something, that's sort of how I always come up with ideas. I have a bunch of ideas that are like kind of back burnery that I'm always pitching. I'm always like, somebody let me make this idea. The pup videos have never been like that, because they're just that, I mean, working with those guys, and Chandler spoke to it and probably can speak to it, of just like, they're the best, their music's the best, they're the funnest to collaborate with. So I feel like I always try to come up with something new for them. I don't know, I'm pooching this question, man, I'm sorry. The original idea for that video game music video became this Old Wounds music video that is all video games. Man, I can't tell this story right. I feel like half the time it's secretly an old idea, but you don't let the band know that, and you try to, and then when you start connecting it to the song, you're like, wow, this is better than it could have ever been. And then half the time it's just the song itself. Fuck, I did a bad job, I'm sorry.
No, I think you did a great job. Sometimes it's
thank you. You guys will have to back me up now, because I'm being self.
No, you're being great. You're being great. Don't worry. You're all doing great. Love this chat. So we're running out of time. I'll just pose the last question because I think it's a nice ending point. It's from someone named Elliot, and they asked if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? And they also said thank you to everyone because they enjoyed the conversation. So thanks, Elliot. But yeah, one piece of advice to your younger self.
Oh my God.
Everyone's like, what would I say?
Well, I think this is something that Jeremy always told me, that there's kind of like all of the work that you do is like two sides of a triangle. Do you remember? And it's like on one side of the triangle, there's like, the film you make for your mom's yoga studio, and like paid gigs and corporate videos, and that internship where you didn't really learn much, but you logged in a lot of time and you taught yourself how to use Adobe software. And it's like, it's kind of like stuff that pays money that's maybe less gratifying, but you're still learning like your 10,000 hours of like base skills. And then on the other side, it's like the really gratifying creative work that maybe you're sinking your own money into, or it's like a dream of yours and you get to finally create it after 10 years. And the whole goal is to like get to the top of the triangle, where not only are you making work that's like creatively inspiring and you're getting to use all of your muscles, but you're also getting paid for it. And all the things that you learned in that process of kind of like hustling really hard and slogging through work and learning your craft also kind of meet in the middle. And I think for me, I think so much of my career has been kind of like building on this foundation where, I had this like initial spark and passion for, writing about art and wanting to make art, but being terrified of, am I good enough to make art? And all of the things that I did in between that have all, I think, helped inform my taste. And it's like, eventually the stuff that I was obsessed with, I learned enough about how to actually do it that I feel like I could start to make things in my own voice. And I think it's just been about like not being terrified to do stuff that really matters to you, but also having the experience and learning from those opportunities to actually be able to sort of execute it with confidence.
I'm going to add that to tell to my younger self. That was a good one.
I'm gonna add that for like my thoughts now because it's really good. I love that analogy. The triangle one, really good.
Cool. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Any other little nuggets or advice? That was a really good note to end on, Chandler.
I hope I didn't botch your triangle metaphor, Jeremy.
That was great. Thank you. I don't even have to say anything.
All right, cool. Thanks so much for everyone for chatting with me, taking time out of your afternoon. This is a great start to my week. Love it here. I'm going to pass it back to Neil. And
before we go, can I say one thing of just
of course, please.
I can speak for myself.
I just didn't want to pressure you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm guessing I could speak for everybody else in the panel, but feel free to say you disagree like jerks. But I just want to thank everybody at Prism Prize, everybody at MVP, everybody at the Academy. But for me, above all, Prism Prize has just been such an awesome part of kind of like my own music video coming of age. Getting to meet all of those filmmakers has always been really, really inspiring. And it's something that wasn't there that the people that created it, I feel like created out of thin air. And it's really like kept me warm on a lot of dark filmmaking nights. So thank you to all you guys and to everybody here.
Thank you for those great questions and for the questions posed by the audience too. And to the other panelists who were really inspiring and are making great work.
Yeah, same.
Thanks to everyone who put this together, all that. Sorry, Alex, you were saying?
I just said thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amani. Thank you to the panelists.
Oh my God, thanks everyone for taking time out of your afternoon. This is so wholesome. This is a great Monday, guys. All right, I'm gonna throw it back to Neil. And yeah, thanks y'all.
I'm so touched, I have to say, as one of the people that was with Prism Prize from the beginning. That first party, we just think back to very fondly, and the people gathered here have all been a part of that. We're just getting started on planning year 10 of Prism Prize, so we're really excited for that, and more news to come. But I just want to say thank you very much to all the panelists and to Amani for a great discussion. It really is sort of all we think about over here. And I just want to let everyone know again that MVP project is open now for submissions. So if you have ideas that you want to make into a reality, we award between $5,000 and $15,000 for new music video projects. So hopefully you get some applications in. I just want to say thank you to Telefilm Canada, who are our partners on this session and all the Academy talks. And if you're posting about this event on social media, please tag us. We have a few tags: the Canadian Academy, the CDN Academy, at Prism Prize, and Telefilm Canada can be found at Telefilm_Canada. I want to just mention that the Prism Prize website, we collect as many music videos as we possibly can. So over those 10 years, you can find 300 Canadian music videos for every year. So that's a lot of music videos to watch. So I just want to encourage people to go and ingest all that amazing content. Please join us for our next Academy Talks event, Academy Talks Framing the Future, Amplifying the Canadian Indie Game Community, on Tuesday, November 2nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. This Framing the Future session, presented by Ontario Creates, looks at ways that the independent game studios can continue to foster audience connection, discoverability, and access in today's marketplace. The event is free for Academy members, and details can be found at Academy.ca. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope to see you at more events like this soon. Thank you for being panelists, and have a great Monday afternoon, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Neil. Thanks, Amani.
Thanks very much.
Nice seeing all you guys, meeting you guys. Thank you again.
Likewise.